There's been a greater need than there ever has been before to help our kids with social and emotional issues, especially around the area of grief and loss. The other day, a teacher came and brought one of their students to my door, and he was just crying and crying. And she said, he says that someone in his family died. I sat him down and I said, I want to hear your story. Somebody died in your life? Tell me about that. And he told me that back in the summertime, so this was months and months previous, his aunt had passed away from COVID. Well, time had gone by and he went to a family gathering where a bunch of people were getting together. All the people knew his aunt when she was alive, and they all brought food and got together, and he went there and he watched and noticed the adults, and not a single time did the adults mention anything about the aunt. And he told me, Mrs. Kretz, they don't even care. They don't even care that she's gone, and they've forgotten all about her. And I'm mad about it, and she should be here today. Well, he had valid feelings that he was trying to sort out. Not only did he not quite understand why adults would go about a meeting without mentioning his aunt, but also it brought up those emotions that maybe he wasn't able to sort out before, about anger, about sadness. Now, we know there's lots of reasons why we fall into silence when someone has died. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes we as adults have kind of moved on and we need to kind of have a normal gathering without bringing that up. But sometimes we forget that people process grief and loss differently. And I saw this growing need for helping kids through grief and loss. In the last 30 days alone, I've done about 100 sessions of grief and loss counseling. And there's 2 books that I began to use, and I want to talk to you about them because you could get them for your house. They can be used anytime. They don't even have to be used for the loss of a loved one through death. Sometimes it's through moving away or through even divorce or big changes in the family. It feels like grieving. There's lots of different types of grieving. Grieving change can even be difficult. These books are really helpful. And what I do in my groups is I start out by reading this book. This is a wonderful, wonderful book. Always and Forever. See that? And this particular book is great because it has animals as the main characters. So the kids can place the characters in this book to whoever is prevalent in their memory. For one child, the person who died in this book might be their grandma, their aunt, their uncle, whoever it might be that doesn't have a family. So they're saying, oh, well, that's about a father that died. It was my cousin that died, or whatever it is. And it doesn't talk about age, and it doesn't talk about any of those type of things. I find that from the very beginning of this book, kids are able to engage in the story. And what it talks about is the cycle of grief. And it talks about this family losing a loved one, this family of animals who all had special talents and gifts. And they kind of lost touch with who they were. They fell into a silence. And then through another animal friend, they come back together. They begin to find their joy, and they begin to learn how to celebrate their friend's life in a healthy way. And when I start out my grieving groups with this book, it really opens the door because it's not intrusive. Almost every child can identify. And what I'll do is then after I read the book, I'll put a circle and I'll ask them, what was the first thing that happened and the second thing? And I'll put it in a big circle, which automatically makes the cycle of grief in that circle. And then I ask each of them, and they've already shared who they are and who their loved one was that died. I say, where do you think you are on this circle? Where do you think your family is on this circle? And it's just a wonderful way to break the ice. This book is so touching. I highly recommend it. And then what I do after that for my next session, I start brainstorming with them about their memories, about the things that they have held close to their heart. Some things that maybe they stopped doing, just like the people in this book. And then I say, I wonder if you could do a little bit of that in this week to come. If when one kid said, you know, we used to garden all the time and now the garden is dying outside. And I said, well, what's one thing that you can do in that garden that might help and might help that garden flourish? And the very next week they said, I found some seeds. And then my parents and I went to the store and we got some other seeds and we're going to build some things in there. See, it helps them to kind of move their mind along and have a healthy mindset towards change and a healthy way to look at this process so they don't get stuck. And it also helps them to be able to internally heal. You know, that little child that came and talked to me, he was trying to heal. He was trying to work it out, but all of his anger came out when no one mentioned it because he was reaching out for people to help him, people to talk about it. And that's why it's so important that you guys choose to talk about the losses that you have in an appropriate time when you can. The kids need it. They need to have that open dialogue about it. It's the number one thing I notice, that kids don't know how to talk about all these things going on within them. And what happens if we don't? Well, they try and figure out how to process those feelings on their own. And it's going to be in all these different types of ways, maybe through anger outbursts, maybe through more destructive behavior as they become teenagers. Even as they become adults, they could cover up their feelings. And it could be that if they went all the way back and learned how to communicate about those feelings and own them and be okay with them, then they can handle difficult situations differently for their whole life. So that's group 2. And then in group 3, we go through a powerful question that I feel really helps a child be grounded and rooted. And what it is it's okay that I feel, and then we fill in a difficult feeling that they've been feeling because it shows that I care. And I'm going to remember. And they right away begin to remember that we were talking about memories, right? And they say, it's okay that I feel angry. It's okay that I feel worried. It's okay that I feel confused. It's okay that I feel sad sometimes, because it shows that I care and I'm going to feel, I'm going to remember. And when they fill in that sentence, many of them say, can I take this sentence home with me? One of the children that also had their parents dealing with the loss of her husband through divorce said, can I take this to my mom and have her have this sentence? They get it. Because they need a mantra, they need something to say to combat all of that negativity that runs inside their head like a recording over and over again without them even trying. This gives them something else. And then in the last group, we get together and read this beautiful book. Now, this book only has one solitary page that deals with the loss of someone through death. But by now, we've developed a relationship with the kids, and they understand that loss comes in many different ways, and that this mindset, if you will, shift is also in many different areas. So this book talks about how this mother has a couple of twins, and they don't want to go to sleep because there's a storm outside, and they keep running into waking up their mom or whatever their mom's doing, and mom talks to them about the invisible string that's always with them, from their heart to their mother's heart, wherever she is. And then they start growing it bigger and bigger. Oh, well, if I'm at school, if I'm up in the space, if I'm all these places, if I'm adult and I'm a jungle cruise person, and they're like, yep, even there, the string goes as far as it can. And then one page says, even up to heaven where Uncle, I don't know who is. And the mom says, yes, even there. And it is just a powerful thing. Now, I use this book for many other reasons too, maybe kids that are just dealing with separation anxiety, but it works so well as an end cap to our little mini group, because it opens up their mind to all kinds of other ways to think about other losses, but it also reminds them of this string that is always attached. And we know this, and all of us that have lost someone, we know that there's this little string of love, and you feel as though it can get pulled, and you have a little hug, and then you feel as though they pull it, and your mind goes back to that memory. The Invisible String is a great, great book to get. And of course, I'm going to link all of these so you guys can look at them down below. But I wanted to get a chance to kind of highlight these two books and a little bit of a process that I go through. And I'm going to be writing a little bit more about this so you guys can kind of have each of those process. If you're interested, then gosh, I don't know, I'm going to find a way to get you more information on this whole situation. You can go to thefocusedmindset.com, my website, and I am gonna end up having somewhere on that front page, I'll have a place that you can click if you'd like to get more about the lesson plans that I do on this, the activities that I do. I have activity pages. I'd be happy to share. The main thing is just communicate. You don't have to use these ideas. Use your own ideas, but choose to communicate. Choose to ask questions. Choose to see how your kids are feeling. And it makes all the difference in the world when you have an open heart to your child and you listen to where they're at in their situation, whatever that might be. We know that challenges can build us stronger. It can bring us to a whole new level. It's like it levels us up. And when we conquer something big in our life, we're leveled up. And then we start again and we work really hard to figure that out, and our mind wants to figure it out. And when we do, when we come out successful, we level up. Like the video game of life, right? Well, kids dealing with the process of grief and loss takes time. It takes time like anything else in their world. Give them that time, give them that love. And I hope you enjoy those books. Feel free to get them, I'm sure, on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. And until next time, keep in touch, guys, and take care.